Hey, buddy, what's going on? KSA Kris here, the Real Estate Blitz. Hello, Blitz Nation. Good to see you. I'm excited today. As you know, we're on a mission here with the Real Estate Blitz, and I want to personally thank all of you for continuing to support and to watch us on YouTube and Facebook. But this mission is important to me, and as a lot of you know, I'm a deep believer that our industry is in trouble because real estate agents are not going out of their way to educate themselves. I'm not an educator. I'm not a guru. What I'm trying to do is interview people that are smarter than me, people that are successful, and then give that all out there. Just put it out into the world to help more people. So those of you that are calling me, texting me, all that stuff, I really appreciate it. But today specifically, I'm really excited to have Dr. Hank on. If you didn't know, he has his own podcast. I actually listen to this podcast. I get hit up all the time. They're like, Kris, what are you listening to? This is a podcast I'm listening to. I listen to it almost daily, pretty much every other day at a minimum. But Agent Wealth Network Live, it's pretty amazing. And then when I found out that I was going to get the opportunity to actually interview Dr. Hank, I just got really excited because I'm a big fan of his podcast. So if you didn't know, Dr. Hank is a pretty much a guru in the real estate community, and he helps educate real estate agents and brokers to understand how they can have a better life and better business. I think that's interesting because most time you'll hear guys talk about, well, I'm going to help you have a better business. But at the end of the day, it's really cool because he has the doctor thing out in front, which is kind of cool. If you remember Chevy Chase, like doctor, but that was different for the younger guys. You don't understand that, but it's funny. A good movie. And it's Spies Like Us. If you didn't know, great movie. Go check it out, youngsters. But outside of that, I think the big one is on top of that, he's a business and a life coach, and he has systems technologies and mindset training, which is what I really want to talk about today, mindset training, because this is what's confusing to me. When I listen to podcasts, almost every podcast that's out there, they're talking about how can you make $1 million? How, what's the new system you should buy to really get more deals? But nobody really talks about, in order to become a millionaire in this business or a multimillionaire in this business, your mindset has to be right. And if your mind is broke and you don't know what the hell you're doing in your head, because it's a dangerous place, folks, you're not going to make the money that you think you are by buying some new super cool system. Yeah. So I really want to focus on that today. But you know what? Let's get into the interview because I'm excited. For those of you that are going to be watching this later on YouTube, awesome. For those of you listening to it on the podcast, awesome. For those of you that are watching right now live on Facebook, do me a favor. Make sure that you start dropping comments. Ask questions. If you've watched any of these before, I always bring up the questions of whoever I'm interviewing. This is your time. This is your chance. So with that said, Dr. Hank, thank you so much for being on with us. If you could do me a favor and just introduce yourself, because I gave you an introduction, but introduce yourself as far as who you are, what you're about, and then just let our listeners know so they aren't just hearing it out of my mouth.
You bet. Well, thank you so much, Kris, for having me on your show. And you just have a rocking show. I just love it. And the way that you uplift people and are here to help people. And, we can't do it by ourselves. So it's a real honor to be here. And yeah, they call me Dr. Hank. I'm actually a mental scientist, and that's where the doctor comes in. And so I'm a head doctor. And I checked you out, Kris, and all your listeners and viewers, and they're all good. And we're all good. And so what I do is I help people to think more about what they want versus what they don't want, because basically whatever you focus your attention on will grow. And so if I'm focusing my attention on the bad deal that happened, what will happen is I'll attract more bad deals. So I help people to change the way they think and to be more in a state of appreciation, because we actually, all of us, have so much, especially here in America and the United States, and we have so much in that, but we kind of lose focus on that because we're worried about the different things that we have. So that's basically what I do. But then my niche is real estate agents and brokers. And what I help them do is to have happier lives and to increase their business and increase their wealth. And so that Agent Wealth Network, I have about 120,000 viewers, and it's just, fabulous to be able to touch so many people and every week be able to do that. So let's fire away. And what questions do you have about, how to be happier, or whatever your questions are, Kris, or any of the viewers that,
awesome.
Be happy to answer anything here.
Awesome. Yeah. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate you throwing everything out there. And I think, like I said, I love listening to what you have on your podcast, but at the same time, I think this is a unique opportunity for us to really talk about mindset and kind of how you think and what not just as which I've heard from a lot of people, how they feel. But you actually have science behind this and right. Years of experience on top of that. And I think that's what's really cool and important. So, let's go ahead and kick into this.
Let's get into that. And so basically that scientists, and you're exactly right, this is all based by, this isn't just Dr. Hank's La La Land. This is all backed by science. In fact, within the last 5 years, quantum physicists, molecular biologists, all of the science disciplines have agreed that creation, things are made, things in your life are made, your experience is made with 3 steps. And so the first step is your thought. So again, this is how they say everything is created, is first with your thought, and then your thought creates what the scientists call an energy and what we call our emotions. So that's why our emotions are so important, because depending on what signals you're sending out there is what you're going to get back. And then step 3 is this energy turns into what the scientists call matter, M-A-T-T-E-R. In other words, thoughts become things. And a lot of people don't believe that's the case. In fact, so let me give you an example of how that is in our thoughts. So let's say that, our prayer is, we're always in prayer. It's our thought, if you will. Prayer isn't being on your hands and knees and hands folded and pray. Our prayer is our everyday thought, our every moment thought. And so let's say that we wake up in the morning and we pray for, hey, I want a better day. I want to, have some more business. I would do better in real estate, or be happier, because really the prize of everything is joy and to have this happiness. And so let's call that color yellow. So that's a yellow. And so we were praying and asking for yellow. But during the day, we started observing things, and like a deal went south or whatever. And, some people weren't very friendly to us. And so then we started praying, not purposely or intentionally, but what we did is we reacted to life instead of being intentional in life and deliberate. And we reacted to life, and we were starting to think about these things. Let's call them red. Okay. So you have this yellow that you were thinking about, but then you started thinking about red. And when you mix yellow and red together, you get orange. And you say to yourself, I didn't ask for oranges. Okay, right. I asked for the sunshine. Yeah.
So this is interesting because, I know in a lot of brokerages, or even when they talk about real estate coaching, or really just entrepreneurship in general, they're always talking about affirmations. So it's funny because you said something, and if I don't know if you noticed me doing this, but like I'm over here taking notes.
Good.
And so you talked about thought. Oh, they should be. Every time I do one of these, I end up, and it's funny because people, whether it's now or later, they're like, I wrote like 10 pages of notes, because I feel like I'm asking questions as a big, dumb person that wants to know everything that you could tell me in the amount of time that you're going to give me, and because it helps me. This is a win for me. So you talked about thought turns into energy turns into matter. And I always thought it was interesting when you would hear, they would say, you think it, you speak it, you put it in action, it becomes real. Or if you think it, the universe will answer. So it's almost like affirmations, which is something that's pushed all the time. Yeah. It sounds like everything that you just said, instead of living in a world of reaction, you're doing a reactional thought. You're actually doing intentional thought. And in the process of doing intentional thought, like affirmations, when you first start your day, that is what creates truth and takes that energy and creates matter, an actual physical thing that you're, whatever it was that you're trying to, whatever's in the chase. Yeah. And I think that's what's really big. And I think the chase can be negative, like I want to get divorced, or I want to do bad things. Well, I want to, hurt somebody. So it can be an intentional chase, and it gives you what you're looking for, or it can be intentional in wealth. It could be intentional in a car. It could be intentional in surviving college for some people, right? Or intentional in joining the Marine Corps, right? Getting through boot camp. And and by the way, if you all didn't know, Dr. Hank, Vietnam veteran. Thank you for your service, sir. In the Army, very excited. Yeah, well, hey, I try not to brag, but this is really amazing stuff, and I don't think enough people talk about it. Whenever it's talked about by other entrepreneurs, it's not talked about in the way that you just said it, and it's broken down in such a way, the way that you just explained, it's where it's like, wow, that makes sense to me, at least. So I want to keep on moving down this same path because now I'm, it's funny because I was getting ready to look at my show notes. I'm like, screw them, because now I'm pretty pumped. Okay. So when we talk about now, we're starting off our day, we're doing affirmations, we're trying to speak something to existence, we're having intentional thought, we're trying to move away from reactional thought. Now we start getting into, in my opinion, almost like emotional intelligence. Can you maybe go a little bit deeper? Like, what is emotional intelligence to you, and how does that play a part in creating a business and finding joy in your life overall?
You bet. So I'm just going to back up for a second, and you're right. Everything starts out with your thought. And so I have that I'd love to give to you and your audience. I have something called a joy shop. And it's something that you do every morning that will help you to easily do this. I want everybody to think about how your life is getting easier and you're just flowing with this, and that it's the path of least resistance. So God knows where you are and where you want to go. And the path there is the path of least resistance. It's downhill. It's the easy way. The tough way is you might get there, but it won't be any fun. And that if you don't have a happy time getting there, you'll never have a happy ending, if you will. That you have to be happy, because if you're just working, doing, that what happens is you end up getting do.
Right. So that's almost kind of like, so prior to us getting on and doing this interview, I was just telling you how I went through an experience for myself. So here it is. We built an unbelievable over-the-top team, successful. We decided to chase and create a brokerage. And then finally we got to the end and we obtained the dream, but it just wasn't happy. We weren't enjoying it. We were suffering through it almost. And it was like, I wasn't seeing my wife anymore. She wasn't coming home because she was working late. I was dreading getting up in the morning. In fact, I mean, I'm so, like, right now, I don't even blink. I get up at 6 in the morning. I have my coffee. I have my daily routine. I'm listening to a podcast or audiobook. I do my morning reading. I do my affirmations. I come in, I knock out my to-do list, my time blocks, but I had lost that. It was around like maybe 10, sometimes 11. I'd wake up and I'm like, oh crap. Got to go to work. So even though I got it, I just wasn't, I was not happy. I wasn't in it.
Right, exactly. And that's where we get in at, a lot of people say, hey, you got to work hard. And I say, oh, no, you got to play easy. And that if you do, that you will end up at the end of where the rainbow is, where you're really happy. So this whole idea, but let's get into emotional intelligence now. And again, I'm offering this joy shop that I have this process that I have. Normally, I have charged in the past like $5,000 for people. And I'm giving this for free because I want to uplift the world, because you and I have both been through enough now in our lives with the military and near-death things, and dreams kind of shattering and everything, that we realize that there's more to life than just getting the stuff, but you can actually get all the stuff and everything, but if you do it easy. So let's talk a little about EQ. And EQ is emotional intelligence. So it's kind of like IQ, and that's intelligence quotient. And all of us, basically, if you're listening to this podcast, that you have enough IQ, okay? And I know, Kris, you're always kidding yourself about you're this dumb guy. You're a bright guy, and you're bright. In fact, all of us are bright, deliberate creators. We're creating our own experience with our thoughts and then our feelings. And so that's where this feeling and this emotional intelligence. Well, it has been found that more people, for example, are promoted, like if you have a job, more people are promoted because of EQ and high IQ and EQ. And it really isn't about, what they're doing in the job. It's their EQ that they have. And then more people have also been fired because of the lack of EQ. So this emotional intelligence. And so I want to take us back to just an interesting perspective on how to look at kind of life and at a higher viewpoint. So imagine, if you will, that before we came here again, and we're talking to God, it kind of worked this way, but not exactly, but close enough to understand, to get the point. So we're talking to God and we say, hey, listen, tell me, how are you going to communicate with me when I come down to this beautiful earth that has all the contrast in the world, has everything we want and everything we don't want, that when I get here, that how are we going to communicate? Are you going to use English? Are you going to use Spanish? And God goes, oh no, We're not doing any of those because these words are very ineffective and don't communicate. But I'm going to be with you every moment of every day. And you say, really? Cool. How is that? And we're probably all asking ourselves, where are you every moment and every day? And where God is in our emotions. And so when you're feeling bad about something, like when you're thinking about maybe your ex, as you brought up, divorce, and maybe you're thinking about your ex, you say, oh, I don't like that person. That God says, hey, that person was made in the image and likeness of God. So the fact is that when you feel bad about anything, about, a bad deal going, that what it is God saying, you're not thinking about this the way that I am. But when you feel good, you're on your lighted path. So thus, if you start paying attention to how you feel, that the better you feel, the better it will get.
So I got a question for you. So, because I heard everything that you just said, and I love everything that you just said, but I think what ends up happening, especially in the real estate world, definitely entrepreneurship, is that you have gurus or just individuals that have a good following, and they start throwing out these catchy words or catchy phrases. And here's the thing. I agree with the words, but I think the way that they're internalized with individuals and how they're put in play is wrong. So, example, I had a chance to sit down, and I don't know if you ever heard of the hip hop preacher. E.T. Eric Thomas. I met him out in Arizona. This was probably 5-6 years ago. Unbelievable. And we were hanging out, and so I listened to him talk. Then I met him after, and we were talking because it was at a Sean Terry event. And Sean Terry, if you didn't know, former Marine as well, huge in the investor community. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to him, and I said something, and he got really worked up. But he ramped me up. I got amped up. I still listen to a lot of stuff, but you'll hear the word grind, or you need to grind. You need to want it as bad as you want to breathe. And I think sometimes, look, I don't disagree with any of that. But at the same time, what I personally learned, even recently, is sometimes we internalize that the wrong way, and we end up taking the joy. We end up taking out, trying to be at our best, and our emotional health, our spiritual health, and just trying to actually have happiness while we're succeeding. You can make all this money. I have a buddy of mine, every year he was probably making $5-6 million a year, and he was the most miserable person I knew. Because his way was, well, you got to grind. Well, good, you got it, but you're miserable. So I just find it interesting that you say that, because I think, unfortunately, a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't take that into account or put it in perspective, to where I think sometimes the words that are overused, which like hustle, grind, whatever it takes, and look, I agree with those words. And that's sort of like what I was saying earlier. There are things that agents need to do and should do, but I think maybe we're looking at it the wrong way, which is why I was excited to have you on, because maybe you can give us a different perspective.
Sure.
So go on.
And so with that, so what I'd like all of us to do is think in softer terms. So think in softer, and all you have to do is ask and you shall receive. Okay, and this whole idea about asking you shall receive, and again, most of us think, oh, but I've been asking for more money and I don't get it, I don't receive it. Well, that's because, again, this thinking about yellow and then thinking about red, not having enough money.
And I would also say sometimes the action, which is the next question that I'm going to be asking you. So you could sit here. I've watched this happen too with in my own family. You could sit there and say, man, I really want to win the lottery. Like, you can think about that a lot,
right?
But if you don't buy no tickets, so I think it's the same way. Like, you can have the thought and you can create the energy. It doesn't mean the matter's showing up if you're not putting something into the pot. You got to get there. So I like the fact that you're saying use softer terms. So I want to hear, instead of saying grind or hustle, I hear, hold on one second. So I keep this. I don't know if anybody can see this. This is actually in front of me every day. It's huge because it reminds me, at least, in order to have the lifestyle that my wife tells me we're going to have, that I have to do certain things every day, right? I have to get in here. So What
So
what
let me
what words would you use?
Yeah. So let me help you with that. So, a couple of things, like for example, we just got done saying, "Hey, if you think it, you can have it," and then you just gave an example of, "Hey, I want to win $1 million, in the lottery ticket, and even if I win a million, buy a ticket, that the odds are I probably won't win it, whatever." And so, I want to help us all understand one step at a time. You want to start getting this momentum going. So, for example, in business, don't say I'm going to have, real estate. I'm not going to have a $10 million business in 2019 if right now I'm doing $1 million. Okay. But you can start saying some softer things to you on, hey, I love the idea. So if you could just write down this, I love the idea of, and whatever that is. So I love the idea of getting more referrals. I love the idea because there's very little resistance in that. And using that word love is a very good one in order to connect, because you're right. When we have lost our emotions, we've been told, don't even pay attention to our emotions, right? And we've been told, and so we break away from our spirituality and in essence disconnect with God, our soul, universe, whatever you want to, whatever words, fit best for you. And so it's using this, so it's just one step at a time, and then specifically words. Like, I never use the word work. Okay, work isn't a fun word, but you'll watch everything, and you're watching Sports Center, whatever. We were brought up with our parents. They said work hard, and we looked at them, and some of them were successful. And we said, oh, that's what you have to do. But the fact is, we didn't come here to work hard. What we did is we came here to have this joy ride, for us to just skip along our lighted path and to ask and to receive the things that we want. And we are always going to be in front of this contrast in life, the things that we don't want, and because it bursts the ideas of what we do want. So when I have a bad deal, that instead of moping about that and putting it on Facebook and talking about it and thinking about it with our little committee going around in our head, and we can't sleep at night and everything, what you do is you say, hey, just turn that off. That is just what I don't want. And then ask, what do I want? And when you ask what you do want, all of a sudden you'll start flowing some ideas that you want. So things like play, and I had a thought like, I love the idea of, and as you continue to use these easier words on you, that even hustle, that maybe that's words that I use: easy, play. I want to play more. Today I'm going to play. I never work. Okay. And I'm independently wealthy. And so how does that happen? That I don't work? Well, because I decided to have fun and to play. And when I do, it lights me up and it lights all the people up around me. And so that is, some words and some ways to just start and think about 2019 as 2019, Kris, is going to be your and every one of our viewers' best year ever. And my best year ever. And when we just think that, and we think that's a great idea, then ask, hey, what's the way to do it? Because, Christ said the Father does the work. So we don't have to do any of the work. All we have to do is the asking and then get out of the way.
Right on. Okay. And I hear what you're saying. Definitely agree with a lot of what you're saying. And I think, I'm even going to have, so I'm sitting here and I'm going to have to go back and listen to that entire thing. I think the hardest part sometimes, and this is why I always encourage anybody that's watching one of the interviews that I do, is I have my book right here. I'm taking notes. And then after that, you go back, and I do this with podcasts. I sit down and I take notes when I'm listening to podcasts. I do that. I do two podcasts per day, but then I take notes so I can find a way to internalize it that fits me and for what I'm trying to accomplish, what I'm trying to do in my life as far as moving forward. When I look at, really trying to have the best year going into 2019, and the negative thought that happens in my head, I'm at my best when I'm really just letting go and I like some of the stronger words because I have a very, very strong personality, but trying to take it in the perspective of I should be having a good time while I'm doing this. It's sort of like how I felt when I was in the Marine Corps and, different deployments or different field ops. It's work, but it's just a good time. Like I'm out there and, you know, some of the humps are going out for PT in the morning. We're going on a run. And does it suck? Yeah. You know, not many people like to run, but I always viewed it, instead of saying, crap, we got to go run and it's going to suck, I would say, crap, I'm getting paid to go out and freaking exercise every morning. This is awesome. Like I just had a different perspective on it, you know? So, you know, when I'm at my best, that's kind of how I look at it. So I want to keep going on, because I think everything that we just said, I think, and I don't want to push you too late, because I know we're sort of on a timeline, but I think it goes really well into one of the questions I wanted to bring up. And really the question is based off of a truth. I deeply believe the reason why so many real estate agents, and I would even say entrepreneurs in general, the reason why they have so many challenges, that they struggle so much, is because they basically aren't self-driven. You know, they need to pull energy from somebody else, which is cool, you know, if you have a coach, but depending on your coach, you're not able to get them all day. They're not there to hold you accountable. So they're not self-driven. They aren't holding themselves accountable. They aren't committing to a routine. And the people that I really envy that have, you know, the businesses that I'm building right now, they do a lot of very mundane, specific tasks every day. They do good actions consistently over an extended period of time in order to find success. And that's through being self-driven, holding themselves accountable, and actually going out and combating those internal mind games that we all do to each other. So if an agent, which are almost all of them, are struggling with being self-driven, holding themselves accountable, what can they do to combat that, so they can actually hold the course to do good actions consistently? Because to me, those are the two great things in order to find success.
Yep, exactly. And so you bring up some great points. And again, I want to soften all the discussion. Like combat is way too hard, that, you know, people aren't feeling good, and we want to have fun in all this. So here are a couple of things to do. The first thing is to understand that what you're really looking for is these better feeling thoughts. And if you can have better feeling thoughts, they're going to lead you to the path on inspired action. So the key there, inspired, double underline, it's inspired action. It's not your coach, or you heard from, you know, somebody that you're supposed to make a discipline where you make 50 calls every day. I don't want you to do that. I want you to ask me, is everybody has their own path? Because the fact is, everybody that's talking and giving specifics on what you should do to be successful, it was their inspired steps and it made them successful and they enjoyed it. But yours might be completely different, and you could be just as, or even more so, successful. So for us to really realize we have our own path, and you have your own guidance system within you, if you'll just start asking and say, I'd like to have a better business, more business, you know, in 2019. I'd like to have more fun. There's another good word, is fun. Okay. I'd like to have more fun. I'd like to identify the inspired actions that take me to where I want. And you might get a response immediately, because the way God is talking, it's not like some voice down there talking, you know, and says, hey, you go do this. It is this energy, this loving energy that's pouring into you, and it turns into thoughts. And so these are what we call godly thoughts, for you to have these inspired thoughts that lead to these inspired actions.
So do you think more agents should actually try to follow or either create their own path, maybe trailblaze, or actually try to find something that they directly connect to, as opposed to, and I'm asking this because here's the thing. I know everybody that's going to end up watching this, they're going to ask the same thing that's running through my head. Well, that's not what I've been told to do. My broker didn't say that. Or I would even say some of the people on my team right now, they're like, well, Kris says I got to do, you know. Now it's funny. Right now, the iteration that we have as far as for Kim Steele and Associates, KSA, our team right now, I've actually been going softer on saying, okay, instead of trying to create a cookie cutter agent, you know, and here's the thing, I know the returns that will come from that, but I see how it breaks agents down. It creates a very high turnover within a team. At least that's what I've seen. So in a team, you'll wash out 11, 12 people a year, then you're going out and recruiting them, plus still trying to build. And what I'm working on right now is saying, okay, this one agent right here, this is their thing. Like
Yeah.
this is their passion. Is there a
Right.
way I can help them build a
Yeah.
sphere around this? Or is there a way that I could help them build a lead generation pipeline
Right.
around this? Or
Right.
is there a way I could take traditional means, like whether it's cold calling, which
Yeah.
inbound lead generation,
Mhm.
social media, etc., direct
Yeah.
mail, which it's still out there, it works.
Yeah.
Can I take something that is an expectation that I would say you have to do in order to get a certain number of deals, and can
Sure.
we twist it in such a way to where they actually like doing it? And I think the big one was cold calling. To
Yeah.
me, I built our business on
Mhm.
relentlessly cold calling when I first
Yeah.
started. Then I went into
Right.
social media, and
Right.
that's what created our business.
Yeah.
So to me, that you have to do that. You have to cold call, but I
Yeah.
realize it just breaks people down.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what I
So you
yeah,
don't have to do that. See, that was your path and that was successful. But I'll give you an example that a couple of them that I have. In fact, they can find out more at dochankwebinar.com on where I have a leads program that it can generate lots of leads. So I had a lady that started out saying, "Oh, I want to do these high-end homes at 500 grand and above." And the fact is, she was never comfortable with those people, but she really felt good because she was brought up in $200,000 homes and just felt she could relate to them. So I said, just get off of the $500,000 home, do what feels best. And now her business has exploded. I have another guy that has never made, and is proud of it, never made a cold call and never used the leads program. And he only has a list of 150 clients and he does $10 million a year. And what he does is he just loves up on those clients of his. And he
and then
connects
they
with them
pass them around.
twice a year. It does, client appreciations. And in fact, my last webinar, that'll probably be out in about a week or so. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody, by the way. And so, we're just having fun here, Kris. And hopefully everybody's, realizing that, hey, there is a path there for you. You don't have to do anything. For Kris, it was cold call, and he's this Marine guy, baby, and he can hit it hard, and he loves doing that. For Amy, that
It
was
doesn't
brought
always
up.
work.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
So it's interesting that you're saying this, because my wife, we were even sort of out there talking earlier today,
yeah,
and she goes, "Kris, people don't think the way that you do, and they don't rationalize what they should do and justify it, and then have the discipline to hold to it in order to get what they want."
right.
And but I'm very, that's just the way I am, and I'm
Right.
okay with that. I'm happy with that.
Me
But
too.
not everybody is. Now here's the challenge.
Yeah.
I'm a team lead. I'm actually
Right.
building a profitable team, and
Yeah.
whether it's a brokerage or anything else. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes what I found, team leads or brokers in general, they're usually
Yeah.
really high freaking D's, right?
Yeah,
So if you're a high D
High
and you're trying to
driver.
build something, right?
Right.
So you're a
Right.
driver.
Right.
If you're driving,
Yeah.
maybe you're literally driving the profits out of your business because you're not
You are.
allowing people to explore how they're going to turn a profit for who they are.
You just hit it. And the most successful brokers in America are those brokers that allow their agents to do what they like best, to get them first involved in what do you desire. So in the Joy Shop, you actually go through this process, and like you can use it with your team. Is the first thing is, hey, what do you each want individually? What do we want all together as a team? Then what do we each want individually? And it could be start out, just be more general. I want to have more fun. I want to enjoy myself. I want to build deep and meaningful relationships. And you start saying this, and so you get more clarity on what you want. And I want to do neighborhoods, or I want to do this one neighborhood, or I want to do, like, I have an action step that could make a $10 million business for any agent out there. I have one right now, and if you email me or whatever, I'll tell you what that step is. The next year you'll do 10 million as long as you just do this one easy thing. And it's like maybe an hour and a half every day that you would do. But if you're not inspired to do that, I don't want you to do that one. What I want you to do, and I'm telling you, all of us have our own guidance system within us, and we know that guidance, we can just ask and we can start getting answers, and it's not immediate. So on team leads brokers who I help as well, it's to really understand, hey, what is their thing that they like to do? I used to do this in corporate America, and I would switch around, IBM or Chase or whatever, and I take people out of these positions over to different positions because it didn't match what they really were talented at. And so it's all a matter of tapping into who you are and really taking the outside world. You don't need the outside world. You just need to ask, or identifying what you desire, and then be in a state of appreciation and appreciate all the things that you have. All of us woke up this morning, our hearts are beating. I mean, we have this amazing body that, we have a digestive system and a circulatory system. And I mean, so many things are playing out for us. Notice I don't use the word work, that are playing out for us. And for us to, so instead of saying like, I'm going to work on this, it's that I'm going to focus on this. Okay. And so you just change these words and you get them a little bit easier to where you just start floating in before you know it. And this can happen within minutes or no more than 3 weeks, that it'll literally change your life, which means 2019 can really be a happy, as long as you're happier, everything that you've asked for will come to you.
Yeah, and one last thing I'd probably put on that, just as I'm listening to it, I'll tell you what was going through my head before we get on to the next question I have for you.
Sure.
I don't think people realize how important or how strong words are, even a word in itself. So even entrepreneurs, they use specific words, and if you internalize that word, it changes everything. So I and it's cool because I enjoy this interview. There's a lot that I'm sitting here internalizing, and I'm doing a lot of thinking in my head, like, okay, yeah, these are adjustments, and words have power, and I should probably adjust myself a little bit here. I really appreciate that. So for those of you, if you don't understand what I'm talking about right now, back up and listen to that again, because that was really, really cool. So I wanted to hit you up on one more thing, because I'll be honest with you. Maybe just because I'm an aggressive individual and the way that I'm built, whenever I've heard, I have a friend, I've known her for quite a few years. And the first time I met her, she introduced herself as a life coach. And I'll be honest with you, she is a hot wreck. Okay. As a human being, she is a hot wreck. And it always blew my mind that, people pay her to be their life coach, when I'm like, she's barely holding on for her own, and it's just one of those things. And, and she knows, hey, I guarantee she's watching this right now, and you're a hot wreck. I love you, but it is what it is. And it's one of those things. It's like, so my only perception of what a life coach is from her. I'll be honest with you. Ever since then, I've never looked up a life coach. I don't know what a life coach is. I think I generalize, or I've tried, if I've ever really thought about it, I've tried to come up with this idea of what it could be. So can you tell from your perspective of what a life coach is, and is it important, or could it be beneficial to a real estate agent to actually have a life coach?
Yeah, sure. So first, let's go back to the hot wreck. That the reason why she is good at telling other people on what they need to do. She really is talented at that, and that's why she could be a life coach. Okay, now when she applies it to herself, she has a more difficult time, and it's kind of like looking in the mirror and saying, okay, this is it. And so it's tough sometimes to kind of take that higher viewpoint and get outside of yourself and look in and figure out what's going on.
Hey, Dr. Hank, I'll tell you, I sure didn't take the higher viewpoint on that one. So I hear you. Again, I love her. I love her, but I just maybe because I know her personally.
And so, but let's hear about a life coach, and then basically what a life coach. So a business coach is, they just do on the business, and they say what you do, and that may be good, and they may be, again, you got to feel good. If it feels good, you do it. Now, a life coach helps you not only with the business, but can help you spiritually, can help you with your health, can help you with your relationships, your family, whatever the case may be. Now, and I don't take on too many clients at all, usually ones that really have some severe issues or some really cool dreams that they want to achieve. And so I've helped millionaires become billionaires, and I've helped people that have cancer no longer have cancer. And it's all because of the power of our thoughts, okay? And that we have these powerful, we're just amazing, creative, deliberate, when we're deliberate, we're these amazing creators that can create all the things that we want. And so to be able to do that. So everybody that I know that that uses a coach or a business coach or life coach, that they can be very helpful because it's somebody kind of looking from the outside in and can give you direction. I wouldn't necessarily sign up for a year with them because you maybe only need one session with them and you got it, and you say, hey, I really like that. Now, one thing I do recommend though is be selective on who are the top 10 people that you're hanging with, because those top 10 people, and basically what is called top grading, where kind of the 10th person, you top grade, okay, to somebody that's even better. And when I mean better, not necessarily who you get along, more similar minded, that you enjoy, that you have fun with, and you also grow from. And so I know so many people that have, are reading books or watching these type of podcasts, that it's this knowledge that they're soaking up and they're able to do it. And in fact, I'm going to offer your audience right now.
We talked about that.
Yeah. I just wrote this book. It's a pretty thick book. It's actually my thickest book, but it's called The 13 Easy Steps to More Money. And I took on a journey with 25 people. We went on a journey and together, and we basically, it's very similar to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. But I wrote a book called Think, Feel and Grow Rich, because his original transcript, they edited out the word vibration. So you just have to be sensitive and realize that you're sending out with your thoughts this vibration, this signal out to the universe, God, whatever, and God is receiving that signal and answering every time. Now, whether or not you're allowing it in is a whole different thing, but we're doing it. So it's this feeling that is so difficult. So that book, if you email me, contact me, whatever, I'll give you the soft copy of that book. And I just released that actually yesterday. It's my 12th book.
Well, what we'll do is when we get off of here, shoot me an email or send me a text, and I'll make sure I put it in all of the show notes. So when this goes on YouTube, when it goes on Facebook, I'll put in the show notes as well, same as the podcast. So that way they can go ahead and reach out to you. And at the end of this, I'm going to make sure, because I know at the beginning I says, hey, I definitely want you to mention the book. I read about 3 books per month.
That's awesome.
I consume a lot of information. But, I want to make sure that the people that are listening or watching actually get a hold of that. But on top of that, I'm going to ask you a couple of very last questions. One of the big one is, how can people reach out to you? So we'll get to that here in a second. But it's funny because I had read somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but it had talked about Napoleon Hill and how they took out the word vibrations in that. And I just thought that was so goofy to me. Because somebody was trying to rationalize or justify and say, well, it's an older book. And it's like, but that book has stood the test of time.
Yeah,
and
it's the
that
number
book
one motivational book in the world.
If you haven't read it, that is an absolute must-read book. There's a few books, in my opinion, are absolute one. Okay, so since we're talking about books, give me your number one must-read book.
Well, so
not that book.
But on mine, not that book, but again, one of the great ones is Conversations with Joseph. This is one of my books that I have, and that's about a guy about 40 years old who's really struggling with life, and I channel in and give him answers, and it's basically answers to life and on how to have more of your dreams come true. And then the other one is The Happiest Man in the World, another one of my books that I really did. And so what I do is I actually just get a directly from Divine Intelligence. And so I'm not taking, I don't really go and read any books per se anymore, but I used to. But now instead, I just channel it and I write all of these books. So that's where and that's on Amazon.com. You can see where my books are. But there's great ones, Think and Grow Rich, and then I wrote the one Think, Feel, and Grow Rich. And
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
And Wayne Dyer, and it just all of the Tony Robbins, all of these people have the ability to move you and to just give you that one extra thought. And it's like the baseball player, that when a baseball player is hitting 200, they are hitting 2 out of 10 times, okay, that they're up at bat. But if they can just, like, if they're in college and if they can just hit one more every 10 times at bat, just
Hall of
tweak
Famer.
it a little, that they earn millions of dollars in the pros.
Yep, $1 million in the pros, Hall of Famer.
Yep, there you go. And so that's all we need to do. And so think about this whole webcast and what Kris is doing with all of his podcasts and everything, that just this one tweak, just be asking for it. I want to just do that little tweak in order to take my business to a new level, take my happiness to a new level, have more fun, to enjoy more, have better health, because literally all of us have the power to create anything that we want. And this is the path on how to do it, is just start being easy about it and know that the path of least resistance is there for all of your dreams to come true.
Right on. I'm going to go ahead and start buttoning this up just because we're coming to the end of the interview.
Sure.
So there's one question that I ask everybody that I interview, just because it's, for one, I've learned a ton from asking this question. And I've also learned that everybody has a very different perspective on how to answer it. So last question that I would ask you is, what is your number one recommendation for a real estate agent or real estate agents out there that are trying to build a killer business, a killer real estate business? What is your number one recommendation for them?
My number one recommendation would really to be go to dochankwebinar.com, because that will put you under my umbrella, if you will. That, and I'm free, by the way. You never need your checking account to pull out your checking checkbook with me, and but that can lead you to more business, and then my training, and you get all of my training and everything. So for real estate agents, and again, it doesn't cost you anything. You never pay me anything, but that would be my number one recommendation. You'll get lead programs, you get different training, mindset training, all kinds of things that are in there that are really, most agents aren't even aware that are out there, and they're out there. So that would be my honest to goodness number one way of doing it, because again, you get under that umbrella everything that I can provide, all my podcasts, everything like that.
Awesome. So that also takes me into the very last one, which is, how can people find you and reach out to you? So is that the best way of somebody to reach out to you and find you?
No, actually, the best way is, and it's really easy, that you could just email me, and it's Dr. Hank for Dr. Hank. So it's Dr. Hank at Dr. Hank. So it's Dr. Hank at drhank.biz, B-I-Z. And if you want the free Joy Shop, I'm offering that. My free book, 13 Easy Steps to More Money, offering that sells on Amazon for like $19.95. And I'll give you the soft copy of that. And then if you want to take your real estate business to a whole new level, I'd watch that dochankwebinar.com and then get back to me and let me know what you like best about it.
Right on. Hey, Dr. Hank, thank you so much. Okay, hold on one second, because I'm going to close this out, and then I'll talk to you once we actually end the live interview. But
Okay.
hey, everybody, just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. A lot of love, a lot of support on Facebook and also YouTube. Everybody's been watching Real Estate Blitz, so thank you so much. Dr. Hank, thank you for being on. It was really cool, because like I said, I listen to your podcast often, and I love the real estate stuff, but I thought today we would do something just different, because I always hear real estate stuff. That's what I consume mostly. So it was nice just to talk about mindset and talk about something different, something a little bit different than how to make $100,000, how to make $1 million. Because again, the people that get it, in my opinion, the people that really get mindset are the ones that actually will always make the $1 million, or make the $10 million, make the 12, 20, or even a billionaire. I don't think a lot of people realize what it takes to become a millionaire, or when you become a millionaire, what it feels like, and you still feel like you're broke, or what it takes to become a billionaire. I've had a chance to sit down and have a conversation with a billionaire, going back to something that you said a few minutes ago. You said, so it was voiced to me differently. I was having a couple beers. I was in Arizona, as a matter of fact. So one of my buddies who's well off, his mentor is a billionaire, and we're sitting down, and I'm looking at this guy. I was about 6 or 7 beers deep, and I'm looking at him, and I'm just like, and he's like, what? And I was like, you don't want to know what's on my mind. And he was already warned about me. And this was, again, a lot of years ago. This was probably 7 years ago. And I says, I don't know. I just think I'm better than you in a lot of ways. And he just starts laughing. He's like, well, what are you talking about? I says, I got, and I says, well, and it was funny, because at this point we were like we had been messing with each other a lot, good conversation. I says, well, you're short, you have a lisp, you can't dress to save your life. It's horrible, and he's like, and then finally he got really serious, and like, we're just poking fun at each other, and he stopped. He says, get serious. He says, Kris, why do you think you're not a billionaire? Why do you think you're not a millionaire right now?
Mhm.
And I was like, because I don't think like you. I mean, honestly, out of everything that we had talked about,
Yeah.
the one thing that I learned that night changed my life, actually, having this conversation with this guy and having beers. I said, honestly, I don't think like you.
Exactly.
And he smiled and he says, well, there's one. Here's the second one. Tell me about your 5 closest friends.
Yeah.
How much do they make? He started going down this whole thing. He says, so this is when I started, even like where we live now, we moved there specifically because of the individuals in that area, and now the connections and the opportunities, the conversations. And, I still hate wine, but I go and drink it, because that's what they're all drinking wine. But it's one of those things where it's a complete different mind shift.
Yeah.
It's a completely different mind shift. And it changed my life. That was just such an amazing night for me.
Yeah.
And so your mind thinking and changing the way that you think will get you there, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, even if it's negative. 2, looking at who are you giving all of your energy to. That's a huge one. Who are you giving your energy to? So for you, you kept mentioning God, right? So are you giving your energy to God? Are you giving your energy to your family? Are you giving your energy to people that are taking your energy? Are they bankrupting you? I think there's a lot there. That, I think that could be like a whole nother episode, to be honest with you. But so, okay, I'm going to get off of my little soapbox here, but thank you so much, because if you can't tell, like, my head's already kind of running with a bunch of stuff. Okay, so everybody, thank you so much for listening. As usual, Real Estate Blitz, keep watching, keep listening, and the big one, please share, please like, please share, please comment. I love the comments, even the goofy ones. I have some friends in there throwing in some crazy comments, so I appreciate it, right? But do me a favor, especially on YouTube. I love the fact that I have people all over the nation and a couple people from around the world that are calling me or emailing me or texting me, and they're asking me questions based off of something that they saw. Or even recently, I read one this morning. He says, I watched this one video, changed everything for me, and you wouldn't believe what I'm doing because I watched this one video that you did. Share this with other people. I'm not charging anything. I'm not I will not become a guru. I'm not creating any type of program. It's just not the way I'm built. Like, I sell real estate. That's what I do. I help people buy and sell homes. I'm excited about that. I'm good with that. But I felt like
one last
absolutely
thought, that the most important thing any of us can do is to feel good. Because when you feel good, you're lined up, you're on your lighted path, and everything will go there. And you have the power to feel good by just thinking and asking for better feeling thoughts. So bless you all.
Hell yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Love you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Dr. Hank, hold on one second. Appreciate you all. KSA Kris signing off. We'll talk to you later.
See ya.